Well, hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Behind me is a BREEZE A220. I am at the Vero Beach Airport in Vero Beach, Florida, and I actually flew Delta Airlines to Florida. However, I am meeting my dad in Florida today, and he will be taking this aircraft to Vero Beach. So why am I here right now? Well, this aircraft is currently at Vero Beach. It's going to fly up to New York to Westchester County Airport, where he will board and then take it back down to Vero Beach. I'm just so excited about this entire journey. I'll be tracking the flight the entire time, almost being part of the trip. And this is the exact airplane that he'll be on. This aircraft behind me is one of the newest aircraft in BREEZE's fleet. Boy, I wish I was aboard that aircraft, but I will be honest with you, despite all the changes with Delta Airlines, I am still trying to get to that million-miler status by flying over the next year or two to get to 1 million miles so I get gold status for the rest of my life. So I have not been flying on other airlines, so I'm letting my dad actually do the testing of BREEZE to see what it's like. So it is quite early here in Florida. I will not be spending the entire day at the airport. This flight has a flight up to White Plains and back to Florida again. I'm just here to take some pictures of the airplane as it gets ready to pick up my dad at Westchester. All right, I got a little bit of time here, as I usually do, although I am not boarding an airplane today. Now, in case you're wondering what this video is going to be all about, I'll be doing the primary narration of it like I normally do, but I have asked him to film some of his flight and to comment, if possible, about what's going on in the airspace in the New York City area. Now, I normally don't talk about many personal things on this channel. However, my father, although he is not employed in the aviation industry, is the person that got me into all this. Many years ago, he actually bought me a radio scanner. This is in the 1990s, and that got me addicted to listening to air traffic control and all the things that can happen at an airport. So we together have been following airplanes for a very long time. Quite often he does fly with me. This time he's flying by himself. However, I'm practically going to be there because I'll be tracking the flight the entire time. This is a really cool airport. Very small, very tiny. This is the terminal building. It doesn't look like an airport building at all. Inside, you'll find a restaurant that honors aviation's past. Restaurants like this at airports like this are just rare. I can't get over the quaintness of this place. It's hard to believe that an Airbus A220 flies to this airport. Now, the Vero Beach Airport is actually a very small regional airport with a very high number of GA operations as well as flight schools. It's very interesting that an airline like BREEZE is flying to this airport. Those A220s look absolutely huge here compared to all of the other aircraft. BREEZE offers service primarily to the Northeast United States. This particular flight today is a flight operating to Westchester County Airport and back to Vero Beach. At Westchester County Airport, BREEZE does have operations, but their operations are actually larger here in Vero Beach. It is a very unique point-to-point system. Now, I'm not going to say that I did not try to look at BREEZE. They do fly to the West Palm Beach Airport, they fly to Vero Beach, and I need to be in the southern Florida area. However, I did see that Delta was actually a lot cheaper than BREEZE. It's interesting. And the fact that BREEZE charges extra for bags, and with my status on Delta, I don't have to pay any extra for bags. I went with Delta Airlines for my flights to southern Florida. Let the flight cycle begin. These passengers are boarding for White Plains now. I'm sure my dad will bump shoulders with them when they deplane. This flight will be departing very soon. Okay, everybody, I want to make sure that I see this airplane as it takes off and makes its way out of Vero Beach to White Plains. And I realized that at the airport terminal where I was, I had a very limited view of the runway and I wouldn't be able to see the aircraft climb. So I've decided to come to a spot a little bit away from the airport so I can watch the airplane climb out. And here she is, as the tower controller hands the plane off to Palm Beach Departure Control. The plane took off on runway 12 right and is climbing out to the southeast, but this straight-out path won't last for too long. There are two general routes to New York, a water route up to Wilmington, North Carolina, where the path becomes a land route, or a land route basically the entire way. And today, it's a land route up to White Plains. This means that the plane needs to make a U-turn since the runway heads towards the ocean. The U-turn will allow the plane to head inland, then turn to the north toward Orlando, then follow the eastern seaboard to the northeast while remaining over the mainland USA all the way up. Here the plane is starting to turn toward Orlando and it will soon disappear from view, but don't worry, this video is about the flight back, so there's a lot more to come. All right, that airplane is now en route and my dad is now at the Westchester County Airport because he is going to be taking that airplane right back down to Florida. Okay, my dad's filming now, and here's the plane in White Plains, filmed at the gate. The plane is being turned around, and he's ready to board. If you want to hear his thoughts on Breeze, you'll have to watch to the very end. For now, it's all about the departure operation aboard this A220 aircraft. He's on board on a strategically chosen seat on the left side of the plane, with the hope of seeing New York City, as this flight's first departure fix will be White, which is to the south in New Jersey.
Welcome aboard, and enjoy your flight. We also want to inform you that this aircraft does not have Wi-Fi on board.
Good weather here, there, and a lot of bumps in between. So fasten seatbelt sign will be coming on and off throughout the flight, obviously. We do look forward to getting underway shortly.
It's time for pushback onto the tight ramp area from the small terminal building. The gates are run by the airport and are shared among various carriers. Pushback needs to occur under the control of the FAA ground controller because the airliners are pushed back onto an active taxiway where the tug is removed. There really isn't much room here at all. What I like about this view is that we can see down the taxiway, Taxiway Alpha, which is the taxiway that this A220 will be taking all the way down to the 6,549-foot long runway 16.
There are 6 exits on this aircraft, 2 exit doors at the front of the aircraft, 2 window exits over the wings, and 2 exit doors in the back of the aircraft. All exit doors are equipped with slides, which can be detached and used as flotation aids. 4 additional ramps are located in overhead bins, which is identified by the placard. Overwing exits have slides that can be used in long water landing. If there's loss of electric power, for level emergency lighting will guide you to the exits. All exits have flight assigned, so please take a moment to find the 2 exits nearest you.
Let's head over to the runway. Okay, so for the rest of this video, I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Instead of talking very formally about our climb out, I actually have my dad with me right here, right now, and we are going to be talking together about what happened during the particular flight that he was on board from Westchester County Airport to Vero Beach in Florida. So I would like to welcome my dad to my channel. Dad, welcome to the channel.
It's a pleasure to be here, Peter.
So this is the first time we're doing this. We're both looking at the screen right now at what's going on, and we're going to talk about the actual flight all the way till we leave the New York City area. For now, we're just going to be talking very, very informally and very conversationally between me and my dad. So as you can see, he's filming this here from his seat on the left-hand side of the aircraft, and we're taxiing out right now to the runway. So what's going on here? What's going on in your mind? What are you thinking, Dad, as we're taxiing out here?
Well, I'm getting anxious, in a good sense, waiting for the plane to make its final turn and go to the holding line and accelerate and take us flying. One good thing I think you should notice that we have a view down the runway at this point. Pretty soon you'll see an entire view. This runway kind of dips at one point and then comes up again. It's not totally
It
level.
does, yeah. So not all runways are completely flat. So being on the left-hand side of the aircraft as we turn around to the left to the runway gives you a nice view of the runway. You can see that it's not a a completely flat runway.
Yeah, it looks to me like maybe 4,000 feet down the end of that runway, there's a dip and then it goes up again. It's quite interesting to look at. I'm sure that 99.9% of passengers never notice that at all, but I look for things like that.
Yeah, and that's something that I've actually never mentioned on my channel myself, so that's an interesting point. It looks like we're taxiing out to runway 34. Sorry, 16.
16.
Yep, 16 looks like we're taxiing out to here. And that's going to point us out towards the Long Island Sound. And looks like we've probably been switched over to the control tower frequency at this point and making the left-hand turn. So this is the point here where you are about to look down the runway, I presume, correct?
Yes, I think at one point you'll see the runway length and you'll see that point where it dips down. It's quite an interesting sight if you're looking at it. I wonder if the planes take off before that dip or not, I'm not sure. But it's coming up now pretty soon, and if you look real carefully...
Oh yeah, you can see it there. Yep, moving to the other window there. Yeah, you can kind of just see by the line
actually see it
on the left-hand side of the airport.
It seems to rise at that point.
And the airport itself is kind of like on a plateau, correct?
Yes, it is.
So we're a little bit higher up.
And he didn't stop at the runway hold line. He just made the turn and then accelerated without revving up his engines at this point. And here we go.
And that's, of course, being issued by the local air traffic controller in the tower. There just was no traffic. You will cross the crosswind runway at one point, runway 1129, but this is the primary runway at the airport that they're using for departures. And oh, look at that, a Sun Country aircraft there. Interesting.
Yes.
Must be a charter. There's the airline terminal. And you're rotating right here on your Airbus A220. There's the crosswind runway. And those trees are actually what state?
That's Connecticut.
That's Connecticut.
That's Greenwich, Connecticut, which is right
Fairfield County, yeah.
Fairfield County, yeah.
And just below the wing, we should see the city of Stamford. Now, looking at the departure plates here, the departure off of this runway calls for an immediate right-hand turn to 320 degrees, which is to the northwest. And there's Stamford, Connecticut, right down there, just below the wing.
Big building there.
Now, just beyond Stamford, what do you see out there, the water?
Well, that's Long Island Sound.
Long Island
obviously.
Sound, very good. And beyond that is Long Island. And what is your relationship? Do you know what your relationship is between this aircraft and someone out there on Long Island right now?
Well, I'm looking down at them and they're looking up at me.
They're looking up at you, but on radar, because the departure controller now that you're talking to is out on Long Island.
Oh yes, that's in
so
the...
New York Approach Control out in Nassau County is the one that's now controlling you or just giving you higher altitude clearance. Now, when you were on this flight, I was actually listening into ATC in real time, and this is a turn that you just make on your own. The controller cleared you up to 12,000 feet at this particular point. So, oh, nice view. What are we looking at here?
Well, again, Long Island Sound and the north coast of Long Island.
And we got Westchester County there. You can even see down to the Bronx further down, part of City Island over there.
I think we have better view of it later.
Yeah. Now, there goes the
Hudson River.
Hudson River, exactly. Over, it's kind of central Westchester County, I'd say, not too far north, heading right towards White Plains. You're strategically sitting on the left-hand side of the aircraft.
Exactly.
For what reason?
I want to see Manhattan.
You want to see Manhattan. So your initial departure fix, as with all departures out of Westchester to the south, is white. And white is over New Jersey. And that is where you're going to get your radar vectors to actually get to your initial departure fix, then continue on course. So the left-hand turn generally provides you with a view of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Now, here's your first turn. This is being issued by the controller.
Yeah, he's turning sooner than I anticipated or would have liked. Because with this particular turn, he's not going to be overflying the west side of the Hudson River, where you can get a great view of Manhattan.
Yeah, this is actually concerning, this turn right now. You know, if you really plan for it and you really want to see Manhattan on the left-hand side, this is a really, really early turn. So you can see right down the Hudson River over there. I think you're going to get another left-hand turn.
Well, I do switch my camera to the other window now and start focusing it down to look a little better shot of Westchester County as well, and I can see certain things that I was able to pick up, including the Spring Brook Parkway and the Grassy Spring Reservoir. And then as we get closer, you'll see better views of Long Island Sound and the Bronx.
Now, as I was listening into this was actually a left-hand turn to 220 degrees. 220 degrees is paralleling the runways at LaGuardia, Kennedy, and Newark to the southwest. It would have been better if they would have given you maybe a 240 degree heading to put you out further on the Jersey side of the Hudson River so that you're basically not flying down the Hudson River. Now, of course, New York City is just a great place to see anywhere from the air. Looks like we're looking at parts of lower Westchester here, correct? And eventually it's going to turn to the Bronx.
Yeah, I don't know if that's New Rochelle. It may be New Rochelle over there.
New Rochelle is just on the far right portion of the screen. You can start to see, some of the buildings in downtown New Rochelle, and that's David's Island over there. Absolutely. Now, and we've got Yonkers pretty much right below us.
Yonkers is below us, and there's a reservoir, part of that reservoir in Yonkers as well.
And again, everybody, we're on a 220 degree heading, climbing to 12,000 feet. The reason why we're climbing to 12,000 feet is because there's a limitation on how high we can actually climb, because Kennedy flights are going down to 13,000 feet above you.
So here we're coming up with a great view. We have New Rochelle on the center of the screen, and to the right at crescent shape is Orchard Beach in the Bronx. That's a city beach. It's a wonderful beach. It's quite big, probably a mile and a half long, with great sand that was brought in during the Robert Moses time when he was restructuring the parkland of New York City. I believe all that sand came from Long Island someplace.
Interesting.
And then also, if you look carefully to the right of that crescent-shaped beach, there's a small bridge that connects the mainland of the Bronx to a place called City Island, which is a maritime community located in the Bronx. And a lot of people don't know anything about it. I've asked throughout the United States if they've heard about City Island. They don't know what I'm talking about. But that's City Island. It's a big boating community. And just beyond that, there's another one, island, which you can basically see. It's called Hart Island. That is the municipal burial site for unclaimed bodies from New York City. It also houses about 1 million bodies that have been unclaimed. During the Cold War on the northern tip of that island, there were also Nike anti-missile stationed there because we're always worried about an attack from the Soviet Union at that point. Now we're coming up past that, and that's the Throgs Neck area. You do get to see two bridges. The one in the foreground is the Whitestone Bridge, and then in the background to that is the Throgs Neck Bridge, both connecting the Bronx with Queens.
And we've got the star of the show right now in the middle of the screen here.
Great view of LaGuardia Airport coming up. I was looking for any planes taking off. I didn't see
they were
any.
actually landing at runway 22 that day, so I'm looking around out for arrivals onto runway 22. I don't see any. I believe runway 13 was the departure runway, but great view of the airport.
We're probably
from here.
10, 11,000 feet, maybe 12,000 feet at this point. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you're level around 12,000 feet by this point.
So,
and right above you are these arrivals to Kennedy coming in on the Lundy arrival at 13,000 feet and higher, heading from the west to the east. So that's your restriction in airspace altitude.
So there's all the Queens area, which is densely packed, as you could see. All of New York is densely packed. That's no exception.
And right now the aircraft on this 220 degree heading is going right down maybe 10th or 11th Avenue on the west side of Manhattan.
Yeah.
So Manhattan, I mean, you didn't pan the camera straight down. You may have been able to see if you look straight down, but you are being rewarded right now with the great view of Kennedy Airport out there in the
we see
distance.
Kennedy Airport, the two parallel runways and the other runways. I tried to look at Manhattan the best I could, but my window wouldn't open.
We don't want that to happen, of course. So, so we've got a great view of Brooklyn here and Jamaica Bay. There's a lot happening between the aircraft and the and Kennedy Airport, of course. But you've got the camera a little bit angled, a little bit more just kind of a straight out view. But we are pretty much coming up on, I'd say, Lower Manhattan at this point, around the Lower Manhattan area.
A great view of Long Beach and the Rockaways coming up, and the Lower Bay as well. It's a big boating community there as well.
And that's the Atlantic Ocean right out there. Now look, we've got a turn here. So what I believe is happening here is that the departure controller has handed us off to the next controller because the New York departure TRACON is divided in different sectors, and this could potentially be our turn for clearance directly to what intersection? White intersection, exactly, right. And then we'll proceed on course.
So here's a great view of Lower Brooklyn. This is Coney Island.
Yep.
Where you can see, and beyond that is part of the island, the Barrier Island, Long Beach area.
Those the Rockaways.
The Rockaways, rather.
Exactly. And you got to the Verrazano Bridge, and it looked like there's an aircraft coming in right over there, right over
Yeah,
the
I did see
Verrazano
an
Bridge.
aircraft. There it is.
Yeah, it looks like it's probably coming up over the Verrazano Bridge, up the Hudson River to come into runway 22, eventually via right traffic. It's a little bit difficult to see what aircraft are directly over. And then in the distance, you've got Sandy Hook in New Jersey.
Sandy Hook is on the extreme right at this point now. It's a hook and it's sandy.
Exactly. Hence the name. So great. So how was your climb out? Did you enjoy it?
I did a lot. It was very, very smooth. We didn't have any issues. Later on in the flight, there was a lot of cloud cover at 36,000 feet. And several times the announcement came on. And by the way, buckle your seatbelt is an automated response. And it says something like, time to buckle up. Thank you. It's very interesting. No one says it. It comes on automated.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Thanks, Dad, for talking us through this.
Well, you're very welcome. I would like a lot of people to look out the window more.
I too wish more people would look out the window. I'll explain the rest of his flight from the window seat as we leave the New York area. It's disappointing how he wasn't able to see Manhattan because we were not west enough, but that early turn over Westchester got this A220 set up to head to White Intersection, the departure gate for this flight. The plane is headed there right now as it flies from northern New Jersey to southern Jersey. Since this is the first time Breeze has appeared on this channel, I had my dad film some of the interior of the aircraft. Here's his seat area. You'll meet him later in this video. We'll fast forward to the arrival at Vero Beach as the A220 is making its descent over the ocean. It's going to be an inland approach to runway 12 right today, the same runway that this plane took off from earlier. To get there, the A220 will head inland to the west before turning back to the left to the east to land, and of course, I've positioned myself at the airport to observe. It's now afternoon, and I am back at the same spot that I was at earlier here at the Vero Beach Airport. That exact Breeze aircraft that I filmed earlier taking off is now on approach to VRB, and it's going to pull in to this spot right over here. Now, I had a choice. Where should I actually stand? Well, I could have stand on the final approach course to the runway. The airport is currently using runway 12 right for landing, but I figured by the time the plane lands and I get over here, my dad may already be out of the airplane, so I'm just going to watch the aircraft land from this position here. I'm super excited about this. Palm Beach Approach Control is having the A220 slow down and prepare to join the final approach course. The flight is nearly over. Okay, they've just checked in with Palm Beach Approach Control, the radar facility that controls the airspace around Vero Beach. They've been cleared down to 2,000 feet and can expect a visual approach to runway 12 right today. Now, that's the jet bridge behind me. You gotta love airports where there is no covered jet bridge where you can't see out. That is simply wheeled up to the aircraft and passengers deplane. Of course, it is covered, but once they leave that area, you want to hope that it's not raining outside. It's a very nice day here in Vero Beach. Here's the right turn to join the left downwind leg. The A220 is almost over the land. The tower is getting some planes out before the big one comes in. And here's the view from the left side of the plane after making landfall after being over the Atlantic Ocean since North Carolina. The seat on the left-hand side of the plane was selected for the view after takeoff, but here it affords a view of the destination airport, Vero Beach. I'm standing down there. You can see the landing runway down there, runway 12 right. It's the long one, but the plane is high and not at the best angle for landing, so approach control will have to extend this leg further to the right before turning back to the left to land. The airport has 3 runways. There's a parallel runway to runway 12 right. It's runway 12 left, as well as a crosswind runway, runway 422. The other 2 runways are shorter than runway 12 right. So the bigger jets like this one use runway 12 right. This means more time for the tower controller to get more departures out if they need the longer runway. But there are a lot of general aviation operations here in Vero Beach, and that includes many flight schools that can use the other runways too. Despite the low commercial flight activity here, this is a very busy airport, and it's a big deal when a fast-moving airplane like this one comes in among many slow-moving planes. Sometimes space has to be made for the airliner and large jet traffic. You can clearly see from this angle that if we keep going the way we're going, the plane will intercept the final approach course, and the plane is too high to turn to the left and land on runway 12 left at this time. Okay, I've got the airplane in sight. It's actually on a left downwind leg. All the aircraft needs to do is make a left-hand turn, fly a visual approach to the runway, and land. Well, sort of. A right turn to widen out the left base leg is being made now. A left turn to the runway would have meant an overshoot of the final approach course. This A220 still needs to get a little lower, too. The right turn brings the plane further in the opposite direction of landing, but it won't be for very long. Back at the airport, the tower has a little more time to clear operations for this big airplane to land. As you can see, as the wing begins to lower, there isn't much down there in terms of city life, as this direction is further inland. And now that the plane is lower, it's time for the turn back toward the airport for landing. I love the view of the wing here. This seat is in the rear of the plane in a class called Nice. In front of the wing is a class called Nicer, and at the very front is Nicest. Believe it or not, for this flight, the ticket was purchased in the Nicer cabin, but being the enthusiast that he is, my dad chose a seat in the Nice cabin despite paying more for a nicer seat. Why? Well, he had to have a seat on the left side of the plane, and that was all that was available. The Nicer fare included a carry-on and check bag, which he needed, but he did not need the extra legroom. At this point, the plane is clear for the approach and is told to contact the Vero Beach Air Traffic Control Tower. Okay, the tower has cleared the aircraft to land. They're using the call sign Moxie 581. Let's watch them land on runway 12 right. Instead of saying Breeze on the radio, the pilot identifies the airline as Moxie. Before the name Breeze was chosen, the airline was called Moxie, so they left Moxie as the call sign for the airline. Moxie started operations just 3 years ago and has one of the youngest fleets in the USA. With operating bases around the USA, the airline has 39 airplanes in their fleet, but that number is growing. Currently, the airline operates a mix of Embraer 190s, 195s, and the A220-300. The airline was founded by David Neilman, who founded Mars Air, WestJet, JetBlue, and Azul down in Brazil. The A220-300 was one of two types of A220s, the other being the A220-100. It was built as the Bombardier C series, but Airbus took a large stake in the development program, and the plane was then branded as an Airbus. It's powered by two Pratt & Whitney 1500G engines, which on this plane have slowed the flight down significantly so that landing can be accomplished on runway 12 right. In the distance, we can see the Atlantic Ocean. It's on an angle since we're on a heading of around 120 degrees. A 90-degree heading would get the plane to the beach quicker, but obviously the runway ahead is waiting for this plane as the tower controller ensures that it's clear. The more populated areas are closer to the airport, especially on the south side and on the barrier island. Here we are flying over more rural areas in Indian River County. And of course, landing into the wind will provide an important headwind for landing. Today, the wind is coming from out over the Atlantic Ocean. On the ground at the terminal, ground staff is starting to come alive to accept this aircraft on the ramp. It's a big deal when a large plane like this comes in at the terminal, which is relatively quiet most of the day. It's coming alive with staff to accept this airplane on the ramp. Staff arrived around an hour ago because this airplane is going to turn around with passengers for its outbound flight, a flight up to Bradley International Airport in Hartford, Connecticut. That's one of Breeze's operating bases. Flights from Vero Beach are offered to Westchester, Hartford, Providence, and seasonally to Islip. The terminal is coming alive with lots of action now. For now, for this plane, the gear is down, the flaps are set, and I'm waiting to the right of the runway to watch its landing roll. I'm not able to see the plane on approach because buildings are blocking the view, but I do have a glimpse of the runway. Of course, I'll be sharing that moment of the landing roll from outside with you. I'm enjoying the warm temperatures in Florida, and I just can't wait to see the same airplane for the second time today on the ground here at Vero Beach. I really feel like I was on this flight, and I really hope that this video makes you feel the same way. By the way, there will be more Breeze videos on this channel, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Of course, there'll also be more Delta Airlines videos, as well as many unique things on this channel, which is always fully narrated and explained with great detail. It's time for the plane to land, so let's listen into the sounds of this Airbus A220-300.
Welcome to Vero Beach, where the local time is approximately 4:01 p.m.
As the aircraft slows down, the tower controller tells the airplane to vacate the runway to the right on taxiway Charlie 3 and to contact the ground controller for taxi instructions to the airline terminal, which is basically a straight run in the opposite direction from landing. Once clear of the runway, the airport can resume the slower operations of flight schools and smaller aircraft. It's a very short taxi to the ramp today, and ground crew members are prepared to marshal in the A220 to a parking position on the west side of the small terminal building. I couldn't have picked a better place to watch this flight come to an end before its turnaround for Hartford. The flight deck crew needs to carefully make a left-hand turn to line up with the line on the ground and follow it towards the marshaller with the batons. Wing walkers on the sides ensure that the wings don't clip anything. There are 2 parking spaces for Breeze here, but at this time, only 1 Breeze aircraft is at the airport. What a view this is, and what great head-on sounds I'm afforded from my position. And here it is right behind me, the BREEZE A220, the exact same one that I saw earlier this morning. This part of the airport is coming to life. It was really quiet here before the plane landed. And look who's deplaning now. It's my dad. All right, I love airports like this. Where can you get to be in a place where you're right in front of the aircraft? Normally you're inside a terminal building and it can be a little bit difficult to see. What a great airport operation this is here. Now this airplane is getting set to take off again, and you can see people are actually starting to check in for the outbound version of this flight. All right, and look who we have here. My dad, fresh from the Westchester County Airport right here in Vero Beach, Florida. Dad, welcome to Vero Beach. How was the flight?
We had a great flight. Second time on Breeze. It worked really well. Smooth, great cabin, great aircraft, great crew.
Okay, and you strategically sat on the left-hand side of the airplane for taking off out of Westchester. Did you get to see Manhattan today?
Unfortunately, we flew to the east side of Manhattan. Great views of the Bronx and Westchester, LaGuardia, as well as Kennedy Airport and Brooklyn.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more later. Let's get your bags. So this is it. This is the baggage claim area here in the airport. Passengers will queue up in this area and the bags will be delivered here, all outdoors. Talk about a common, unique arrival experience. What a great first impression passengers get of Vero Beach here. In the Florida sun, you just have to wait for the bags to be driven up to you, and then with no carousel, you just find them all lined up. The journey then is done. Let's catch up with my dad post-flight for a full review of the experience. All right, everybody, we are here in Florida. I'm with my dad, and we're gonna do a little bit of a post review of his experience with Breeze. Of course, this is an air traffic channel where I focus very, very heavily on flights from an air traffic point of view, where they fit into the national airspace system and what the views are out the window. We'll talk a little bit about that right now, but I do wanna ask him some questions about his experience with Breeze. It was actually his third flight altogether on Breeze, so he's got a little bit of experience with that. But first, let's just talk about your takeoff out of the Westchester County Airport. So you took off. We strategically sat him on the left-hand side of the aircraft. Why?
Well, because we were anticipating a great view of the island of Manhattan taking off, which we viewed before. But when we took off, we made a right turn, and then we actually went northbound a little bit.
Northwest.
And unfortunately, we had a great view of upper Westchester County. However, as we were vectored towards the white intersection, I believe,
Right.
we were actually somewhat over the island of Manhattan,
Exactly.
or even a little bit to the east of Manhattan. Although on initial climb out, we did get a view of the island of Manhattan and the Hudson River.
Yeah. So, of course, when you're heading down to White intersection, when I take off from LaGuardia Airport, I always like to sit on the left-hand side of the aircraft. Also the same out of Westchester County Airport, too, because you get these great views if they vector you properly. The last time he flew this route to White intersection, he actually flew over New Jersey, so the view of Manhattan was really, really spectacular. This time it wasn't as good, but it was a beautiful day for flying, and he did get to see much of the New York City area on takeoff. Now, regarding your Breeze flight itself, Breeze has 3 different classes. They got their nice, their nicer, and their nicest class. What kind of ticket did you actually purchase?
Well, I purchased a nicer class ticket, which was the medium level, which gives you a slightly bigger seat than the nice section, but a little bit smaller without the reclining option in the nicest section. And I found that when we actually made the reservation online to do it, I wanted to sit in a specific area of the plane where I was closer to the window, and the nicer sections were occupied. So I actually sat in the nice section, which is the lower end in terms of the economy level. However, those seats are really, really good, and I'm not a big guy, and fit perfectly well in that seat. Going back, I think we'll be in the nicer section.
Yeah. And what he just explained is exactly what I like to focus on in my videos. It doesn't really matter where you sit, it's all about the view. He had the ability to sit in an extra legroom seat, but he chose a seat with less legroom just for a window seat that was convenient for the really, really good view. So let's talk about your experience with Breeze, which is something I really don't talk about very often on my channel, partly because I fly Delta over and over again, but here's a new airline. What was the entire check-in process like over at HPN?
Well, first of all, the online experience is very, very simple, and it is quite a breeze. And you have the option to choose your seating type, whether it's nice, nicer, or nicest. It works very seamlessly. It's very, very easy to navigate through, even for a person like myself, not being the 18-year-old who grew up with a computer in his hand. So that was really simple, and it worked out very well. Getting to the airport, which we're in, this is White Plains Airport. The Breeze check-in has a standalone counter, and really a simple process. Very few people online, and you get online, 1 or 2 people in front of you. You check in, they weigh your baggage, because we got free baggage with this particular flight, and you get checked in, you get your boarding pass, and then you get through TSA. Since we have TSA pre-check, it makes it quite a simple procedure.
And it's a very tight airport, so basically right after check-in, you go through TSA and the waiting area is right over there, correct?
Yes. HPN is not one of the most friendliest passenger type of airports you could probably want to fly out of. It's convenient, obviously, but you have to find your right place to sit so you don't get crammed in.
It does get crowded down there,
Yes.
yeah. Did you get to go to the observation deck at all?
Yes, I did. I have an opportunity to go to the observation deck and look at some of the historical photographs up there dating back to 1945, if I'm not mistaken.
Got a rich history.
When the airport was first inaugurated. So that's a great view of the airport. It's not the busiest airport because there's many commercial flights, but there's an awful lot of GA flights coming out of that airport as well.
Right. It's always interesting when they have these large aircraft fit into the mix of these smaller GA aircraft at like an airport like Westchester County Airport. Okay, so the flight itself, let's talk about the service. When did it start? What was it like? Did you have to pay for anything? Did you use anything on the aircraft? What was it like?
The cabin crew is a younger crew. They're all very energetic and accommodating. I actually found them to be better than the mainline airlines, to be quite frank with you. The service coming down was quick, it was efficient. Actually, there were 3 people moving down the aisle doing the service. And in our particular category of the nicer seat, all you get complimentary is water, coffee, or tea.
But you sat in a nice seat, though.
I was in the nice seat, yes.
Right. You paid for nicer, but you sat in nice.
It's a little, I have to remember what kind of class I was in. So, yeah, I was in a nice seat, but I had a nicer ticket.
Right.
But anyway, being that I think it's the same level of service even in the nicer seat. Mm-hmm. It's only when you get into the nicest seat where you get complimentary wine and beer and enhanced snacks. There is no hot food on board, but it's a relatively short flight of 2 hours and 30 minutes actually. Mm-hmm. And very, very nice crew. Young people, many of them are this is their first job in the airline industry. And I found them to be, again, energetic and accommodating.
That's great. That's great to hear. And the aircraft itself, you flew on an Airbus A220-300, an aircraft you've always wanted to fly. Well, since it's been around, not very long. What was that like?
It's probably the best aircraft I've flown on, and I don't want to brag, but I've been on a hell of a lot of aircraft of different types dating back into the 1960s. So it's a very spacious, open cabin. The seating is 2 on one side and 3 on the other side. The windows are particularly great because they're huge windows, which offers a great view. The overhead lighting system is very, very interesting. It's at least for the daytime flight, is blue and sort of a magenta type color. So very accommodating, very nice, and the seats themselves are comfortable. Good back lumbar support as well, I found. The tray table is excellent, and the unique feature of these seats with the main lines don't have. There's also a coat hook on the top of the seat.
You don't see a lot of that anymore.
Don't have it.
Yeah.
And then there's a small pull-out tray to rest your iPhone, your iPad, or your phone, or your personal device, because there is no in-flight entertainment on this flight. So very, very great seat. I can't think of, and the seats, by the way, have a reduced reclining ability. So you can't go back 35 degrees and encroach upon the seating behind you. It goes back maybe 5 degrees, 10 degrees max, I don't even think. And super comfortable.
And you mentioned in-flight entertainment, the IFE. Of course, the best IFE is looking out the window, as you did, and you've got these great views leaving the New York City area. But what about connectivity and Wi-Fi?
Well, when we entered the plane, it did say Wi-Fi on board. However, we were soon advised by the cabin crew that for some reason Wi-Fi was not operative on this particular flight. That was somewhat limiting, but nonetheless, I compensated for that. I do carry with me on my phone a magnetic compass built into the phone, so I knew my headings at least, and I was able to tell the pilots if they needed some heading information if their systems failed.
And of course, if he did have Wi-Fi on board, the person who he would be texting, of course, would be me, and I would be providing him information about his flight in real time, giving information about air traffic in the area that he could look out for. I believe you said you did see an aircraft pass by at cruising altitude at one point.
Yes, there was one instance where I did see a plane passing maybe 1,000 feet opposite direction above us. I just got a picture of the contrail though.
Yeah, Wi-Fi is always an asset to have on an aircraft. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. This is a very different type of video. I normally don't include interviews. I normally don't include any other people in my channel at all. It's usually me talking. So I want to be able to expand things to show how other people are actually enjoying their flights. Right, Dad?
Well, I'm a subscriber, needless to say, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you're interested in the intricacies of navigation in the skies, this is the best channel out there. You'll learn a lot about how planes actually move from point A to point B and what goes on in that very complicated airspace. So I had a great time working with you, Peter, and hope to see you again.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us today.
Bye-bye.